Well, hello, welcome to I Love Gay today. This is a special day. We're here with my friend Bob Witeck from DC. How are you, Bob?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic. I hope you are.
I
Thanks,
am.
Matt.
It's this cold winter day out there for both of us, I think now.
It is, but the sun's out. You know what? During winter, when the sun is out, all is good.
See, you're feeling optimistic no matter what. I like that.
Always, whenever that sun is shining, I feel the world is turning in the right direction.
I hear you. So no, mostly for those folks, those very few that don't know you, just uh, tell us, because I know you got started. What was like your key moment in the LGBT space when you kind of like got when Bob Witeck was launched into our LGBT business world?
You know, it's funny you asked that because I compartmentalized my career just into two parts. I'll be brief, but my I began. I'm a creature of Washington D.C. My father worked on Capitol Hill. I spent the first decade of my career working on Capitol Hill. I was a press secretary for a senator and for a Senate committee, but the committee was a great committee, Commerce Committee. So I worked with business media around the world, and it was an amazing time because it was when the birth of mobile communications, the birth of the internet. So they were a lot of aspirational and entrepreneurial people in my orbit. But as a gay professional,
Yeah.
I also was very active in public policy because I was a volunteer, even beginning in 1979, 1980 on gay civil rights causes at the beginning of some of the work we were doing to try to create legislative change. So when I started my business 27 years ago now,
Wow.
I wanted to marry these needs and interests of mine as a communicator. I wanted to help all of us communicate effectively, persuasively about LGBTQ people.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I wanted to advise businesses how to be rewarded for taking leadership roles and embracing the community. Those are very important needs of mine.
Yeah. I just remember when we started in '95, you were already well established, and but somewhere along the lines, I know that American Airlines came on the scene, and I know that was kind of what I look at as the genesis of a lot of how everybody got to know what you were up to at that point in time.
It is interesting. I had worked with American Airlines in the 80s and 90s, actually, and their chief communications officer was a good friend of mine. And in 1993, as most historians of our community will remember, American flew into a lot of turbulence after the March on Washington that summer. And they had asked the flight crews to remove the pillows and blankets on the flight for fear that the gay passengers would contaminate with HIV. It was deeply ignorant, Matt. It was deeply hurtful, and it inspired huge protests and opposition. We were called by American Airlines to help them repair it.
Wow, wow, and the rest is history, so to speak.
Kind of. And also it was a notion of what does repair mean? To me, it means one thing. It doesn't mean making something wrong go right. It means looking at the problem and really evaluating philosophically and culturally and policy wise what was going wrong. And they clearly had the right instincts. Their values were in the right place, but they didn't have the tools to go forward and to really embrace inclusion and acceptance and equality as core values.
Yeah.
They got it, they needed to, but they needed to do a lot of work internally to begin.
Well, I always have that perspective of, because when we started, advertising was evolving from print and television into online and all the
Yeah.
all the all the iterations from there. But you were always uniquely positioned because you were one of the few that really focused on, well, at the time, of course, and still today, PR communications. But at the end of the day, it was you were a master storyteller. And who would have known that storytelling would have
Yeah.
become like where all this advertising, marketing, and everything has kind of culminated into where we're at today.
Matt, it's funny you say that because I remember as the online universe and marketplace emerged, there was a joke at the time that all you needed to do with your brand was add .com, and you were good. You're good to go. Just sail on. We had so many pets.com, this.com, that.com. Everybody felt like all you had to do was spread your wings.
Yeah.
I said to ourselves when we began this work, I said, There's always the core is the story. It's always the core is the story. I said, we're going to always have new platforms. We're always going to have new audiences and new ways of telling the story. But the story is the thing.
Yeah, because even today, I know you and I, when I think we were in Mexico together just less than a year ago, and the idea, the concept, even back then, we were talking about that. Everybody always sees an influencer as someone who's 25, Instagram, holding their phone up, and it's kind of it's very cliche. But I think the world is starting to realize that in the world of influencers, thought leaders, just those that have utilized a lot of this storytelling and the platforms of Facebook and Twitter to really be able to kind of accentuate not only your own story but also that of your clients as well. And I would say that you've for lack of a better word, mastered that as well.
Well, I'm trying. You're my great teacher, my friend. Matt, where you lead, I will follow. But what I find is the platforms that are available to us, they're opening doors. That's what they do. Instagram doesn't tell the whole story. But Instagram reminds you that there's more going on here than meets the eye. So what hopefully I think happens is you get an impression, and the consumer or the voter or the household starts connecting back and forth to that same message and the same brand over and over again. Yeah. So you can't use the bandwidth of one impression or even 100 to tell the full story.
I know recently you've been working with Marriott, and I know that's near and dear to my heart, not only because of your work, but also because one of my best friends, he and his husband got married. Thanks to Marriott, kind of put together the whole package, the honeymoon, and I remember they got married right there in DC Pride.
Well, not only that, I asked them. I didn't marry them. I'm sorry. I was going to say I had a conversation with the couple. Yeah. And I said, how would you feel doing that? Because I wanted them to be the honorees that year. It was the year that Supreme Court passed or voted on the Obergefell decision to make it the law of the land. But, Matt, as you know, you needed good storytellers too. And I needed two people who were both willing to be very personal and private, but at the same time, be out front and very public. Because to me, I couldn't do that. I didn't think I had it in myself to be married on a float. But they did have the chutzpah and the audacity to do that.
Yeah, I think it was Ross Matthews that officiated that wedding, yes?
It was Ross.
Yes.
And what's interesting, I kept reminding all of our colleagues at Marriott, I said, remember one thing, this is a great moment and a great celebration, a great festival, but it's also their wedding. Yeah. So we have to treat it with the same dignity and the same respect that any married couple deserves. And the interesting thing at that moment, I don't know if you were there at the moment, I was standing at that corner and I watched, and these hundreds and hundreds of people were surrounding us. Yeah. None said a word. They wanted to hear every utterance, and then they got so excited. Anyway, it was one of those great pivots in our lives.
Yeah, I remember that like it was only yesterday.
I know.
And but also the things that I've noted you've been involved with, NLGJA, the National Gay and Lesbian Journalists Association. You're one of those folks that's really kind of been with them at the beginning stages as well.
Well, it begs my age, my friend, because I knew Roy Aarons, the late Roy Aarons, the founder. I became I guess maybe at that time on their board, I was the first non-journalist board member as a communicator. And Roy and I were good friends, Roy Aarons, who founded it, the Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist. And I've always had this love of their craft, love of the kind of work they do. Because to me, that's what keeps us a democracy, is this. Yeah. But also to include us. And LGBT journalists are critical as storytellers to make sure that our lives are expressed.
Yeah. No, I love it. And that's where, as we wrap all this up, but the kind of culmination of a lot of this is we've launched LGBTQ PopUp events in the real world, but now we've kind of pivoted and migrated to PopOn, which is this virtual advisory group. And you're a founding and key part of that. But if anybody haven't figured it out yet, it's bringing all of that experience and all these ideas together with others, and hopefully we'll be able to make some great things happen in 2021.
I hope so. You know what I love most about all this work today in 2020 is the fact that I keep learning every day. You know, everything I knew in 1993 when I founded our business has been important and crucial to our success. But what I learned today and this week about the lives of LGBTQ people in America and around the world is going to keep this work fresh and real and vibrant.
Yeah. You know, my thought process of, you know, it kind of, especially as we're wrapping up this year, you know, back when the internet started, we became connected in a way that we were never before. But over the last few years, I think it's really clear that not only are we connected, but we're collaborating, or we're able to collaborate. And I feel like that's the key: collaboration, and being able to actually truly not only work with others, but share ideas with others through the tools that are available to us today is unprecedented. And for better or for worse, I feel like it's going to launch us into some great things next year.
Absolutely. And also it's based on our love and friendships.
Very
and I
much
think
so.
that what has created the value of connecting with us as humans is intrinsic to us as successful professionals.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to working with you more on this, and as the new year commences. And in the meantime, just thanks for taking a few moments to share your
Thank you.
story and let our audience get to know you a little better.
Matt, I just hope the world understands the key part you are playing in being the glue that's going to keep us together. You were an inspiration to me.
Well, thank you, sir. Well, wonderful
Thank
to
you.
see you here.
You too.
Bye-bye.
So good.